So, thank you very much, Fraser, and hello to everybody out there. It's always quite an interesting proposition presenting to my own screen, as I do every day. But I hope that you can hear me well, and I'm really looking forward to telling you something about NPL and the Postgraduate Institute for Measurement Science. And I remember, several years ago when the Tommy Flowers Institute, as it was called then, was inaugurated, and being there at the beginning of that as well. I'll probably mention a couple of times that the Postgraduate Institute is celebrating 5 years of collaboration and activity as we were inaugurated, in fact, on the 23rd of October in 2015. So we're all growing and developing, and I'm very, very happy to be here to be able to talk to you about some of the things that we've done on our journey over the past 5 years. And clearly the focus will be on postgraduates, but how physics and the applications of physics really can transform our world. So I need to advance the slide. So just a quick introduction to NPL, what we are. We're a world-leading research facility with the National Measurement Institute, and at the organization we have over 500 scientists and engineers from a wide variety of fields working together to do some significant things. And we like to characterize it as, saving lives, protecting the environment, enabling people to feel safe and secure, as well as supporting international trade and innovation. So those are sort of big overarching words, and I'll try and put a lot of context around those during the talk, not just in terms of what our scientists do, but certainly what our postgraduate students do and how they develop into doing that sort of thing. One of the key things about NPL as a national laboratory is that our advice is impartial and independent, and I think that's very important in principle to everybody, but it means that consumers, investors, a whole range of people, policymakers, entrepreneurs, and engineers and scientists can always rely on the work that we do, at the foundations of measurement and standards. And I think that's particularly pertinent and probably poignant in this day and age when truth and verification are really critical aspects, not just of our scientific and engineering endeavors, but in our sort of social and political spheres as well. So a little bit about NPL, who we are and who we are now, and how we operate. So we are the UK National Metrology Institute, one of many around the world. We're a public corporation. We exist as a formal partnership between NPL, BASE, the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, and a formal strategic relationship between the universities of Surrey and Strathclyde. And of the sort of over 500 plus scientists, there are several hundred more staff supporting those activities, working in commercial and business development activities, as well as a couple of hundred, at least 200 visiting researchers per year, and a couple of hundred PhD students that are co-supervised by NPL scientists and engineers. And we partner with a large range of organizations and universities, both in the UK and internationally. And the business is sort of established and has at its core a series of values, as all modern organizations do, and these values were created by all of the people at NPL. And we like to describe ourselves as an exemplary, and try to aspire to be an exemplary national laboratory, doing excellent science and engineering and achieving extraordinary impact. And that extraordinary impact is something that we're very keen to present, because it's not only the joy and the pleasure of doing science and being, a physicist or an engineer or any kind of worker in the science and technology sphere, but how that changes people's lives. And we have a specific model for doing that. Because we're a government organisation, we look at some of the really big challenges that we face and try and understand those from the point of view of measurement science and see how measurement science can have an impact on that. And so we drill down through this V diagram, as we call it, to understand that. We develop in partnership through collaborations, some very innovative and relevant solutions to these problems, and then apply them and then go back up the other side of the V to ensure that they really create some significant impact and benefit to our society and to the people in the UK and beyond. And to highlight this, I'll just cover some of the things that we're really keen to work on. So I'll give a couple of examples of some of the very big projects that we're working on. So in the top left-hand corner, you can see a satellite looking down on planet Earth, and we're involved in a program called Truths, which is a new mission that we're launching in collaboration with the European Space Agency and a number of other partners. And this is to develop a new way of measuring, or new and highly accurate ways of measuring surface temperature on the planet to ensure that we can develop better models and validate climate change problems that we have at the moment. And hopefully that will help to really determine, what are the things that are making a big difference to climate change and helping advance in those areas. In the bottom left-hand corner, you can see a LINAC, which is used for cancer treatment, and the kind of work that we do at NPL is very significant in ensuring things like the dose of the radiation that's delivered is absolutely suited to the target treatment and minimizes the damage to the patient. So, these are key areas where physicists in particular have a very significant role to play in keeping the nation healthy, or at least helping to cure very significant diseases that trouble us. And so I think there's around 5,000 physicists working in the NHS today, ensuring the delivery of the best healthcare, particularly in nuclear medicine. And in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a sort of a picture of a fuzzy nighttime scene of somebody driving, and measurement plays a very, very critical role in ensuring that, say, for example, on autonomous vehicles and the implementation of autonomous vehicles, because the world is fuzzy, difficult, and quite hard to understand, and precise and validated measurements are absolutely critical to that. So physicists, engineers are really key in ensuring that the right science and technology can be developed and then applied into these spheres to make things work for the benefit of humankind and a number of other areas, commerce and trade and so on. So that's just a sort of potted series of examples of where NPL has some activities and has a great deal of impact in doing that. And I'll mention a couple of those things as well, because that's currently what we do, but it's based on a relatively long history for a modern science and engineering organization. Now, measurement and the need for standards goes back some way, but certainly in Britain, to Magna Carta, where they were very keen to ensure that measurements of wine and ale, so clearly those preoccupations were the same then as they are now, and food as well, and so that was enshrined in certain documentation and ensured that there was fairness around trade and exchange of goods. And many hundreds of years later, through the sort of work that a number of European nations did together, the Meter Convention was established in 1875 on the 20th of May, which is now celebrated as World Metrology Day every year. And that's the framework for the global system of measurements, which you know as the SI system of units, the Système International. So based on that and those activities, NPL went on to become established in 1900 and was officially opened in 1902 at Bushey House in southwest London, in Teddington. And the photograph that you can see there is of the Prince of Wales inaugurating the building and the institution. And the key thing about what we are, and what I've been saying is that NPL has always been established to play a significant role in not just international measurement and and ensuring that we can do that accurately and well, but also to break down the barriers between scientific theory and practice. And that's where, physicists, chemists, biologists, engineers all have a part to play. And we continue to do that and really drive forward with our partners, and particularly our academic partners and our industrial partners. We bring together a variety of know-how and a set of needs that hopefully makes a big and positive change to the world. So that's where everybody who's hopefully attending this conference, whether you're a PhD student or a supervisor or a scientist, we can make a big difference, and a positive one at that. So a couple of notable achievements, just to set out some sort of key milestones along the way, and these are all sort of in the middle third of the 20th century, which is clearly a bit of a golden age for a number of institutions. In 1946, there was the world's first automatic computing engine, ACE, which was worked on by Alan Turing, and so there's a strong link there between NPL and BT, or GPO as it was then, and Tommy Flowers himself, who was also a collaborator of Alan Turing's, and made the actual equipment that delivered these early computing capabilities. The invention of radar just before the Second World War as well was there was some instrumental work done, field work done at NPL to help progress that and give Britain a significant advantage in that period. And then later on, packet switching was developed in the 60s, and that's a technology that we know and rely on now as critical to enable the internet and ensuring that information can be transferred efficiently across large networks, and certainly was the start of something very useful then. And I've left the last one from 1955 to last because it's probably the single most important thing that was developed at NPL during the 20th century, and it's the world's first cesium atomic clock, which significantly improved the accuracy of timing. Now it's increased and improved by some orders of magnitude. In fact, that optical atomic clocks are accurate to 1 second in the life of the universe, and that's something that is instrumental in ensuring that we have the most accurate GPS, for example, and we're able to synchronize networks and other types of activity across very large spaces and over large distances. And that's obviously critical to much of the work that's done by organizations like BT and similar. So that's a sort of romp through NPL. Normally that presentation's about 50 slides long, so I thought I'd spare you that and just try and pick out some of the really big highlights. And now I'm going to move on to the PGI, the Postgraduate Institute for Measurement Science. So a lot of people ask what it is, and I think the best way to describe it is very similar to Tommy Flowers Network. We're a virtual institute for research and training, but we focus on measurement science and where measurement science can have an impact. But what's critical to what we do is that our projects are very much aligned to those important measurement challenges, which I outlined in our V diagram. So we're really keen to ensure that the work that we do has that kind of purpose. And I know that BT has a strap line, BT Research, of purposeful innovation, and we concur very much with that ethos as well. And one of the ways in which we can get the best knowledge to be translated into the most useful outcomes is by connecting industry and academia. And I think these are things that the Postgraduate Institute and Tommy Flowers Network and many organizations who support postgraduate research have at their heart. And it's really critical that we work towards achieving that as we go through 21st century and try and solve some of the very significant challenges that we face over the next few decades. So our key activities are obviously research, as I mentioned, but as I say, it's research with a purpose, with a measurement science underpinning, and also one that's connected to our sort of academic industrial complex across both the UK and overseas. So we're not parochial, we are an international organisation. And the SI is rather interesting in that it is probably the only thing that humanity has ever truly agreed upon without argument. And even during times of international conflict, during the world wars, the SI was still maintained through collaborations and communications between national measurement institutes. So it's a guiding light, I think, to all of us, but also that science and engineering is a way that we can bring people together, irrespective of what other differences they have. One of the things that we like to do, and I know that many institutions want to enable our postgraduates through training, for example, and that's critical. And just to open up the opportunities, particularly we like to think of the experience of doing a PhD in collaboration with NPL and other industrial institutions as one that will broaden the horizons for students engaging in a life or a career in science and engineering. And that's something that we get some very positive feedback on as our alumni move on into their careers. And they know that having had that experience, it significantly benefits them in ways that are slightly intangible, but definitely beneficial. And of course, we have a really strong push and desire to ensure that there is a good cohort experience. So I mentioned earlier in passing that we have around 200 PhD students that are co-supervised at NPL, and bringing them together in conferences, whether online or in person, just like the Tommy Flowers Network is doing and has done, very consistently and repeatedly, frequently, in fact, over the past few years, is a way to connect people, to get people from different areas to understand each other and to share problems and solutions, and that's critical. We need to maintain that activity, and it enables a much bigger sense of what we're doing and the purpose, but also the outcomes and the benefits. So we're very happy to see people from different fields that they're all physicists, but working in very different fields and different applications come together and talk about the things that they do in a very sort of excited and energetic way. So, and I probably have to say, why have I done this way? So I'd like to just mention that the partnership, I mentioned earlier that NPL in 2015 had a sort of change in its operating model, being government owned and government operated from previously being company operated, and it was as a result of the partnerships with the universities of Strathclyde and Surrey that NPL then had to develop a postgraduate institute, and that's particularly important. And the reason why I did it this way around is that I wanted to focus much more on what impact the PGI has on postgraduate students. But underpinning that is this fantastic partnership, and the two universities that I've mentioned there have a very strong ethos of translating academic know-how into industrial and third-party user benefit. So there's a very strong connection between the academic institutions and their surrounding industries and public organizations, particularly healthcare, for example, in the case of Surrey, and with some of the big institutions in photonics and also manufacturing and energy supply up in Scotland. That said, I mentioned also that we're celebrating 5 years, and one of the ways I wanted to just put across how important it has been to bring together people and hopefully inspire them to do things and connect more. And hopefully there is some sense you're getting that Tommy Flowers, for example, and PGI and other institutions are really there to bring these ideas together and the resources together to support interesting and fulfilling, meaningful careers for physicists and scientists and engineers of all shapes and sizes. And over the last 5 years, we've had a tremendous growth in the number of students that we've been supporting. So about 82% rise in sort of the 5 years. We've also seen 140 PhD students graduate. So there's some real kind of momentum going now, and in that time we've really picked up on a couple of key things that we know can help to ensure we are doing the best job possible for our scientists and supervisors and the institutions that we partner with. So one of those things has been to develop something called the Supervision Charter, and this is a way to improve the student supervisor experience by setting out very clearly what the contract is, in inverted commas, between the student and the supervisor, and developing that professional, kind of career-minded role and activity as you sort of transition from undergraduate to graduate studies and beyond. And in that time as well, we've been working with a lot of industrial institutions to ensure that we draw in funding and support from those institutions so that they may benefit from people who have these higher level skills, who can develop and innovate in ways that are significantly greater than would be possible without having that sort of deeper understanding of the science, the engineering, the physics underneath all of these complex phenomena that exist in the world today, and that we're trying to exploit to develop new technologies and new activities. And I'd like to say, like Fraser was saying earlier, we've benefited. We've had this great benefit of the pandemic, which has been that our conference this year had I think it was a 30% rise in attendance due to it being online. So we were able to bring people in from across the world as well. So, saying good morning, good afternoon, and good evening at the beginning of every one of our sessions, which I think is very different to what we'd experienced before, but quite pleasing that we've pulled out some really interesting developments and opportunities from the crisis. So that was the last 5 years. During 2020, we have produced a report of that activity. It's called our review, our 5-year review, and that's published and available for people to download to look at in more detail. And I just want to pick up a few highlights from that report as to what we've done. Again, this is sort of evidence that shows how what we're doing really has an impact in terms of ensuring that we create this broader set of horizons for people. And we're very pleased that the largest single kind of portion of our postgraduate students go and work in industry after having done a PhD in collaboration with NPL. And we also have people that stay at NPL, about a fifth of them stay on, and nearly 30% go to academia and work in academia, but presumably with a very good understanding of the relationship between academia and research laboratories and industry partners. And we've highlighted here some case studies of some of our star students as they've gone off into the world and achieved great things. We also highlighted some of the fantastic publications and the recognition that our students have. So, it's very important for us to celebrate, just like Fraser mentioned, it's showcasing and celebrating the great talent that is developing through this period of PhD research and collaboration. So we're very happy about that. We're very proud of our students. It's becoming a family in some senses, and we are connecting much more with them to create this kind of longer term relationship, and hopefully, as time goes by, there'll be some significant benefit of having brought together people and collaborated in this way. In terms of the demographic as well, we have a very broad spectrum of people that do research as part of the Postgraduate Institute. So around 60% UK and 40% international or EU, and that reflects the sort of demographic that we have at NPL. We're also happy to report that we've got a good gender balance, and particularly good for physical sciences. It's slightly better than the national average, which is 31% female to 69% male. We try very hard to ensure that we are providing opportunities that are lowering the barriers to career in science, particularly in physics and engineering, where they are traditionally dominated, male-dominated areas. Anyway, you can read all about that sort of thing in our report. There's a DOI there for you for anyone who's interested, and can circulate that later. So, and finally, I just again want to mention how important it is for us to communicate and celebrate what our postgraduate students do. And again, chiming very strongly with what Fraser's saying, and what Carol is doing, giving out prizes because we value the contributions and we think that what people are doing is truly excellent. And we have a publication, our quarterly publication, where we talk about all the things that our students are doing. And this is a publication that's led and edited by our students. I forgot to mention actually that our annual conference is always organized by our students. So it's tremendous that they get so involved, and they always come out of it with smiles on their faces, even though there are some grimaces with all the challenges of having to organize something in lockdown and with very different approaches. And in the most recent copy of the grad post, we talked about how our students were helping combat the COVID-19 pandemic, using what skills they had, and particularly one of our students at Huddersfield, and helped by a student at Surrey University, were using 3D printing techniques to make face shields. And we talk about what impact lockdown has had on us, and share our experiences and develop different sort of training, mentoring schemes, and other events to ensure good communication across a very broad range of both technical and non-technical topics. And the final kind of photo there, or image there, is about our 5th annual conference, which was held last month in a slightly different format, but very similar in the sense that we had it spread over 4 days, short periods, and also a day where we really focus on specific activities around what the students were doing. And ours was thematically based, very much like the TFN conference today. And very, very positive feedback came from our students for that, because it gave them that opportunity to show how their careers are developing and how their science is having a significant impact on the other activities that they're working on with NPL. So that's everything about the PGI. I hope it's given you a good sense of what we do and why we do it, and how there are tremendous opportunities out there, and lots of rich and interesting careers across the board, that result from having a PhD in physics, and where physics can have a really big impact on our lives, both in terms of quality but also safety and security. So I don't know if there are opportunities for questions or time, but thank you very much for listening. I hope you have been listening, and I'm happy to take any questions either now, or if you want to transmit them through the Tommy Flowers network. There's some ways of getting in touch So please do get in touch. This is a collaborative effort, and we're really open to any kind of interactions and new relationships. So thank you very much.
Great. Richard, thank you very much. We probably do have time for one, possibly two questions. So has one on the previous events. If you guys want to pop something in the Q&A, if you want to ask a question of Richard, but I'll pose one now for the moment. Richard, what's your biggest challenging in finding the right people with the right skill sets at the moment?
Well, it's interesting that you say that finding the right people with the right skill sets. We don't worry too much about that, because partly what we're about is ensuring that we can develop people with the right skill set. So we've made a lot of effort in trying to understand not just what our students want, but also what our industrial partners want. So that the model that we have of this, it's quite immersive PhD training. So it's not just about going and attending courses, but the fact that they are in a lab, potentially day to day, a working lab. They learn a tremendous amount, and it really helps in that transition towards a career in a working lab. You have to operate as a professional working scientist, even sort of from day one when you're collaborating with us. So, the skills are important, but, we have tremendous universities, tremendously talented, wonderfully bright, I don't want to say young people, but just generally they are, coming through, the education system. And so, yeah, we're spoiled for choice, but we try and do something significant to help broaden that horizon by the breadth and the type of training that we do.
Cool. And do with the people that do apply and participate, do you see a typical background, or is it kind of wide and mixed and varied in terms of the people that kind of apply?
Well, we do have a typical background, and primarily, they are physicists, engineers, chemists, biologists, and so on. And so, yes, they have a science and engineering background. But one of the things that we're working on at the moment is trying to broaden that participation and looking at ways in which we can bring, the opportunities to people who are not going through traditional routes. So that's very important to us because, as we want to grow the number of researchers in the UK, there's some big challenges that we have to meet. We need to fish in a bigger pond, and there are some very bright people who may have left school or left university without the idea of wanting to do a higher degree, but after 10 or 15 years of working have got such talent and energy to develop further that there needs to be more opportunity for them to develop in that particular way.
Okay, great, Richard. Thank you very much. I'll bring nobody's posting any questions, so I'll bring that session to a close. If we get any others, we'll pass those on to you.